sure. Personally, this is my stance. And I have been saying this since I was in the Sati Mind. And I've been consistent on this. I remember then there was a case in which a transgender was selling nasi lemak. It went viral, and then there were attempts to persecute, to discriminate, just for the act of selling nasi lemak to earn an income. Why did I oppose that, and why do I believe in a more humanitarian approach than one in which suppresses basic human rights? Just talking basic access, whether it's about job protections, to not be beaten up. I mean, that's basic. I think on this matter, a humanitarian response is much better than one which is of coercion and discrimination.
Hi, salam sejahtera dan salam madani. 欢迎你收听收看今天的没人在乎 podcast. I'm very happy today because I can get two handsome guys on my podcast. This is not easy.
Well, actually,
three lah. Don't just say to us.
No, two handsome guy and one cute guy.
It's okay. I don't care about you.
Bro, she just ditched you, man.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm really used to it.
He's used to it. Yeah. So let's welcome Sadid and
Thank you.
Do Be Chill.
Hello.
Yeah.
Dobby.
Hi.
Yeah.
Say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so actually, it's kind of our idea. Like, you know, everyone actually wants MUDA to be here because we have actually invited or actually talked to all the major parties. Yeah, be DAP and then even Gerakan we invited.
Why is it even Gerakan?
Because Gerakan don't have any seats, ma. Yeah, except in Dewan Negara lah. Yeah, so
Okay, sorry.
right. I mean, it's a fact. So So because for us, ever since MUDA actually, when you decide to actually move away or not collaborating with Pakatan Harapan anymore. And then after that you decide to.
Or we should say like Pakatan Harapan abandoned them.
Correct. It's like
let's dive into that later.
It's like we send love letters, but the love is unrequited.
Yeah. So they just read your message lah and then reply
double
lah.
tick.
Double tick the reply.
Actually, I don't know whether it's even double tick.
No, I think they just grey out,
Oh, yeah, maybe they just block you, so it's just one tick.
This is really a sad story.
It's okay lah. It's okay.
Biasa
Life
dah.
continues.
Yeah. And then so then right after that, then you guys announced that you wanted to be collaborating or holding hands with PSM in the upcoming state election. Which I think might be a good thing for the nation. We can discuss about this later. And then but I would say all those people that actually supported you previously because of your relationship with Pakatan Harapan, some people just don't take it so well. So this is, and then a lot of us because I mean, at least for me, I think I'm like the central voter, so I don't stand with Pakatan or I don't stand with Perikatan. So people like me would actually wonder, and then why did you not keep continuing to go and send more love letters to Pakatan and then decide this. So this is something that we really want to know.
Because to be honest, it's not about unrequited love. It's more than that. To be honest, if Pakatan Harapan and Barisan Nasional in this unity government had fulfilled its reform agenda, championed a more diverse, meritocratic, needs-based Malaysia, and didn't backtrack on its basic reform promises, there wouldn't be a need for MUDA to do what it's doing today, which is to send a clear wake-up call so that post-state elections, the federal government will start taking the people more seriously and not forgetting them because they feel too comfortable. They see multiracial moderate Malaysia as their safe deposit. It's just about numbers and statistics, and now they're playing the politics of pandering to win over the PN's voter base while forgetting their core ideals. But I think when you backtrack and trip on multiple red lines, I think MUDA must go in to act as a check and balance.
So what are the multiple red lines that you're referring to?
I'll go one by one. You want to go or I want to go?
You go first.
Okay, sure. Allow me to go one by one.
It seems like they have a very long list here.
Yeah,
For me personally,
I think so.
no, because to be honest and to be very frank, when we send the letters for there to be a meeting, it's not about seats, positions, contracts. It's really about policy concessions, getting the reforms in and having that commitment in that in 1 year time, you will be able to commit to these reforms. About things which is good practice and has been done even by the previous administrations since 2018, continued in 2020 and during the 2021 administration. Basic things. Asset declarations, none. Back then done, now until today, still nothing. 2, back then when it comes to criminal cases, you don't drop or you don't attempt to drop. Today, it's been postponed indefinitely. And mind you, if this was done last year, there will be protests on the streets. 3, LCS corruption scandal. Back then, it's said to be worse than 1MDB. Today, said, oh, never mind, we wait for PAC report. PAC report was tabled last year in Parliament. Auditor General report was declassified, tabled last year. Major red line. Above and beyond that, centralization of power. Reforms is about returning power back to the people via Parliament. Back then, we already moved away from the culture of the Prime Minister centralizing power. Today, the Prime Minister holds the PM portfolio, Minister of Finance, Minister of Wilayah, and absorbing major agencies into his or her portfolio. Back then, you said SPRM, PDRM, all the major appointments will be done in Parliament. Today, same system is being done.
Yeah, even the pardon board. So
correct. Yeah, I forgot. Pardons board. Finally, back then, for 20 years, mind you, we've gone to say we need to remove status quo when it comes to education. Slowly but surely transition to a needs-based, merit-based system. Obviously, I'm being realistic. I'm not expecting for you to dismantle the constitution. No. I'm a believer of the federal constitution, but you have made a commitment in line with the federal constitution to move to a more needs-based, merits-based system, which, mind you, protects everyone regardless of race and religion. If they're underprivileged, they deserve to get assistance. And today, even though a 19-year-old lady could get into Harvard University, she couldn't get into a pre-university course. That same quota system, yet no attempt in wanting to change. Malaysians are very pragmatic. Obviously, they know, okay, there's some progress, but when there's no progress, I think it's due time for there to be a wake-up call. And to me, that's why MUDA should enter. We will not take down the federal government or state government. We're not contesting in even half of the seats. Heck, we're not even contesting 10% of the seats. But give us a chance to be your voice of conscience.
But yeah, just like what you said is Malaysians are generally very pragmatic. So so would you just see this, can you actually just see this as, this is what the people actually wants, instead of, MUDA jumping in and then, stirring the shit, I would say, in a sense,
At times, you need to be a shit stirrer, right? To really disrupt Malaysia. I mean, mind my language. But the point is, if you don't dare to disrupt, everyone feels comfortable with status quo. Can you imagine if we give them a blank check in the state election and they win big, what they'll do after elections? Today or yesterday, the institution of the Prime Minister can openly say that, hey, I have no corrupt ministers, signaling that there is a potentiality that post-election, the perception which the public is saying today, that the criminal cases will be dropped, it gives credence to it. What more when the cases have been postponed indefinitely? I mean, I'm not the one who before election said, menang pilihan raya, saya penjarakan. I didn't say that. I said, follow the rule of law. Postponing the case indefinitely and potentially dropping it is not right. There's no
giving them back their passports and stuff. So. I mean, a lot to say,
Yeah, but YB, you made a very strong and very clear statement, no matter here or any other press conference that you did. But is there any possible you will still work with Pakatan Harapan in next election?
Oh, that's fair. I mean, to be very frank, after state elections, my goal is not to dismantle the federal government. From the beginning, I said that. That's why I'm not saying, suddenly I'm going to withdraw support, give to PN. No. State elections can be used as a wake-up call so that federal government will back up and make the changes as committed and promised before it is too late. If they still don't do it, then GE will be a completely different game. I have absolutely no problem working with friends in Pakatan Harapan to get the reforms in. My job is not only on seats or to win seats or to even become a kingmaker. My job is to get policy makers in and policy changes for Malaysia.
Okay, since you're talking about policy, but actually what I know is like MUDA always tell people we are like new politic. But what policy is included in the new politic?
Oh, a lot of things.
Hey, no, you're not going to answer me, Dubi.
Let's go, Dubi.
I'm a human rights activist. So new politics to me starts very basic. Let's not talk about the big stuff. Let's talk about simple stuff. How does government govern, right? We used to have ministers making threats to people, to journalists, to media companies, to shutting down media companies. We thought we ended that in 2018. And then what is our minister doing now on TikTok Live or Instagram Live? threatening. Oh, nanti
Actually, you made a very dangerous statement on here, right?
Yeah, I know.
If you say this and you win the election, I would definitely look at you every day.
Because we are actually an NGO, so what we are focusing actually is on like the liberal rights of media practitioners. So so be very careful of what you're saying right here.
So please do.
No, hold him to account. Hold me to account.
Yeah. So I already have like activist friends who are telling me if Dobby backtracks on his things, I'm gonna.
Yeah, we're gonna unfriend you. I'm gonna leave the group and stuff.
If that's only unfriending, that's fine. Worse than that might happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we still have that trend happening now. We have that starting again, right? We say we don't want police to be harassing activists in middle of the night for something that's basic.
Yeah.
Now you're Sanusi getting arrested 3 a.m. in the morning, and police give a whole bunch of justification. Oh, his people don't want to pick up phone. We don't know where he is. But they know where he is. They found him in the hotel. They could have just waited for morning and say, "Hi YB, tolong pergi mahkamah bersama." That's it. But they insist on doing this as a show of force. Let's not kid ourselves about it. They could have done it very quietly, but no.
20 police officers.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not
It's
a
a
super
show
fit
lah.
guy who can like run away and. I mean, let's face it. Yeah.
But 20
don't
is
judge
not
him that way.
20 is not actually that much lah, because when Selangor government previously actually hunted down the transgender, they
more than
asked
that.
60s officers to hunt one single transgender people down. So 20 is not a lot lah.
Well, it's also not a lot when you compare to when
And that
our
doesn't
Prime
make it
Minister-
right as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And it's definitely not more than when the Prime Minister himself was arrested last time. I thought he would appreciate a bit more subtlety that these things, there's a way to get about it. There's a crime committed, yes. But how do you deal with it, right? You don't go the underhanded tactics to do this kind of scare tactics.
Yeah.
Activists who have committed nothing but political offense, essentially Peaceful Assembly Act, or even like Wong Yanke, his protest at university, they are still being charged. They're still facing the same charges. The same law that we said it was problematic 10 years ago is still there.
Yeah.
So to me, how do you deal with these things? If you can deal with these things, I don't think I'll be sitting here.
Yeah, but jumping in the state election actually doesn't. I mean, beside then, a wake up call, it won't change anything.
Won't change anything.
Yeah.
So
in
if
a
you
way.
bring down to Selangor, to me, PJD Link is a reflection of that. Freedom of information in Selangor and Penang. As much as I'm not a big fan of Gerakan, how they deal with Penang issue in the past, they've tried to get freedom of information on several things, never succeeded. Selangor people ask for just simple information. What kind of allowance does Exco get? FOI, OSA cannot say anything.
Yeah.
So
That's
to me,
ridiculous.
state level is a reflection of what's going on federal level.
Yeah.
If federal level issues are easier to be related to people because they see it very obviously, Bank Negara changed something, next thing you know, that impacts how your loan rates goes. But state government is a bit more opaque, right? Because every time you say, oh, there's a road issue, there's this issue, yes, it's a local council issue, but there's a policy level behind it that's not discussed.
Yeah.
And to me, if you want to say, oh, it's state election, it's not a place to make a stand, I think, yes, fair enough. But at the same time also, if you don't make a stand in the state election, let's not even talk about national. And the thing is, state election now is not just 1 state, 2 states, it's 6 states. And I think that's a good place to benchmark government. Are you really happy with the government right now?
Yeah. If I may also add, you can make state elections a reflection of your national agenda. Put it very simply. For an example, when it comes to transparency, how can we allow for multi-billion-dollar projects to be approved and passed only by the hands of a few? MB and Excos deciding huge projects, whether it's on deforestation, whether it's on PJD Link, and hiding it under OSA. I mean, where's the transparency that is so basic, right? Above and beyond that, Political Funding Act, right? That's how you want to challenge crony capitalism or political capture by the elites. On a state level, you can start implementing it at the state first to then be a reflection at the federal level. Above and beyond that, equal allocations for all, regardless whether you are in government or opposition. Start at the state level, right? So there are actually so many things which you can do. Start at the state level. Another example I want to give is this. We always talk about having a third vote, right? I think MUDA will continue to champion that. We believe in that. That's how you embrace democracy. Fine, maybe only federal government can do that. But at the state level, we can at least walk the talk by saying...
Yeah, or at least make a trial or something.
Correct. Not just a trial. Yeah. We can also have an open application system, whether it's on Ahli Majlis, Ketua Kampung to state GLCs. In contrast to the current system, which is still based on political cronism and a very rigid system which is dominated only by the political elites. MUDA wants to propose an open application where anyone and everyone, regardless of partisanship, can apply and you'll get it based on your merit. I mean, we can start that at the state level to aspire to be better. So I think we can do a lot at the state level.
Yeah, I totally agree with all the changes that you think Malaysia should actually head forward to. But it's just that you were once in the
That's a good
cabinet
point. Yep.
before. So has all these things? I mean, OSA has been there for like forever. So have you
allow me.
actually discussed?
Number one.
This
Number
is
one.
going to become a charama
Mind you,
now.
when we were in government and the Sedition Act was about to be used, Cabinet made a decision to put a moratorium directly, and it became a moratorium. Today it's being used. I'd like to remind you, back then the Prime Minister.
Mahathir is actually better than.
I'm not. To me, it is about a team, not just a leader.
Okay.
It's a cabinet decision then, right? Today, the same leader who criticized in 2019 is doing the exact same thing, right? It's not just that. Asset declarations was done after the first 2 months. I was one of the first ministers to declare. We passed Undi 18, Undi Automatic, Calon 18, 3 crucial constitutional amendments. Not just that. Even if you look at GLC appointments, they were done in agencies. Felda, Felcra, Mara were run by professionals. Professionals. Today, all UMNO guys. I mean, let's face it. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but today, basic reforms are being put on hold and are being backtracked. So, that's why to me, I don't understand. Some things which have been done successfully in 2018, continue it. Why do you want to change it? So, not to say it is perfect, but my worry today is that, because as UMNO, there's a blank check for us to do anything and everything. And that's why I think the wake-up call during this state election must be sent clearly.
Okay, I think YB made a very clear statement on the policy part. So now let's talk about your MUDA new friends, PSM.
Yeah.
Why PSM? Because we all know PSM is a very leftist party. So do you think that MUDA actually have the same mind with PSM?
I won't say we have a same mind, but I think the immediate outcome based on the current predicament of political conditions are the same. The kind of things we fight for are the same.
Yeah.
How we arrive there might be significantly different, and I think that's definitely going to be the case. And I think you can talk to our members, you can talk to PSM members and ask them the same thing and ask them, how do you reach there? Completely different story. But end of the day, I think right now for a state election, our position, say on demolition of houses, spaces of worship, is the same. You don't do demolition unless there is specific cause of action that has been fulfilled. You don't discriminate or play racial politics around. You don't try to fan the fame of religious issue. Environmental protection, make sure it must be heard. Third world must be there. So these are very common issue that I think different way of arriving there, same end result. And I think to be fair also they had like multiple years to learn and really develop this, whereas we are seeing the after effect now and just kind of go like, yeah, this is bad, we want to fix this. And let's be very honest, a lot of solutions we are thinking of today were developed by them, either by them during their generation or through their work in different NGOs that they led before, or some even in their leadership during PSM time. Like one big question that always makes me wonder, right, when I saw Dr. Kumar sitting there at a press conference, if not for PSM's EO6 case of them getting arrested for trying to register their party, will MUDA even have this kind of chance to register ourselves as a party?
That's a fair point. We use that precedent, federal court decision.
Yeah.
And that's why MUDA's registration actually came through the courts, not through ROS. Yeah.
So to me, if we want to talk about us taking a common position on welfare, on focusing on equality, I really don't see whether we have any other big partners right now that we can say, yeah, I can trust this guy, he won't suddenly run away from that.
Okay, I'm very happy to get your explanation, but I have to say, you only send the love letter to PSM after you get abandoned from Pakatan Harapan. So is that means that PSM is only MUDA's second choice?
You know?
It seems like a
Like
desperate
spare
move
tire
to
lah.
me actually.
Oh, they're not spare tires. I mean, they've been there much longer than us, to be fair.
Yeah.
To be honest, we actually engaged them since before elections. And we both wrote in together. No, they told me they wrote in earlier to Pakatan Harapan before elections. We wrote in after. Trying to work a collaboration. Unfortunately, at the end, Pakatan Harapan only decided to negotiate with us and really push them to the corner. And elections happened, it happened. Post-election, again, we thought at least there'll be some reconciliation. It didn't take place. If it's up to us, we believe that PSM should be part of that consideration since before elections. And that's something which we approached as well. So that's where we realized, I think moving forward, we're not just looking for at this state election. I mean, if you just look at this state election, both of us will get heart attacks. Oh my God, what's going to happen? I mean, you'll get less of a heart attack when you start thinking 20 years down the road. no matter what happens, with the same principles, ideologies, policies, despite having some differences, I think there are a lot more commonalities. I think it's about building and investing in that Malaysian dream for the next 20 years. I think that will be a lot more worth it.
Okay, so this is okay. Since you actually mentioned that we should look at the longer picture, not the bigger picture, but the longer picture.
Yeah.
So I would say that some of the people might actually argue that Pakatan Harapan or the Pakatan Harapan led government are actually they are just in power for less than a year.
Yeah.
So what do you expect them to do you expect them to do a drastic change on things and then stirring shit up and then making people very divisive. So so I would say some people might argue this.
Not fair point. They've been in Selangor and Penang since 2008.
Yeah, of course.
So
That's one.
Yeah.
I mean, this is actually entering their 3rd to 4th term.
yeah.
And yet we still see a lack of accountability and transparency at the state level when it comes to multi-billion-dollar projects, concessions or extension of concessions, mining, deforestations, PJ dealing. I can give you a whole list. Again, MUDA is not anti-development, but we are pro-transparency and accountability. At least the people know, not hiding behind the veil of the OSA, which they opposed before this. But above and beyond that, that is why we are making it clear, MUDA is not here to dismantle federal and state government. I mean, if it is about dismantling federal government, then it's fair to say, oh my God, give them more time, it's only 7 months. But now when we know, and be very frank with ourselves, what has happened for the past 7 months? Is it good or bad? Are the reforms being done or not? Or at least are the previous reforms being continued or not? It's not. Back then we even got equal constituency allocations. That's taken back, right? Back then there's recognition of the institution of opposition. That's taken back. Back then there are red lines which you don't cross, and I've mentioned it. Now, one by one is being trampled. So we understand that reforms take time, but reforms which are already done, don't backtrack. And at the same time, if you realize that things may get worse, do you just keep quiet and wait until next GE, or do you send a wake-up call early? Because we're not asking to take down the federal government. We're asking to vote MUDA to send that wake-up call so that there is that check and balance. I'll put it very simply. Let's look at Selangor. Federal government is still under BNPH. Sorry, PHBN. State government, PHBN. Member of Parliament, PHBN. Ahli Majlis, PHBN. Ketua Kampung, PHBN. MUDA and PSM is only asking for a chance to have a seat as an ADUN. ADUN only out of like 5 structures which are dominated by them. So that if they don't work for you, we will be the wake-up call. And if they betray your votes, dropping of criminal cases, breaching of basic principles, forgetting and taking multiracial moderate Malaysia lightly, then we will be there for the next 5 years. But give us a chance and invest in us now.
Okay, I would say some of this actually reminded me of, some of what you say actually reminded me of what Pakatan Harapan actually told us, when the time they are still opposition.
Exactly.
So it sounds like, I would say, probably 90% the same. Yeah. But, yeah, so if you are already, if you are being elected as an ADUN or then how do you see that how are you going to achieve that, or how actually are you going to tell people or tell the state assembly to actually do things or changes this on this? Yeah.
So that's where that wake-up call is very important, because we acknowledge that we will not be able to take over any state government or the federal government, but having that voice of conscience or the alternative which continuously raises this issue up. For example, in Parliament, if something bad happens, they know that they can't keep me silent. I will be very vocal, and as a consequence, it will hurt their chances during GE. And if they don't back up, then we will take them on during GE. Same for state elections. Let's say we win only a handful of seats. If they still don't heed the people's voices, in the next state elections, things may turn the other way. My fear is this. Today, they are treating multiracial moderate Malaysia lightly. That this is our safe deposit. PN can never challenge them. Therefore, it is ours. It is our entitlement. No one can disturb. Right? And that's why you see, why is MUDA coming to here? Why is MUDA? This belongs to the people. If you commit on the reforms, implement the changes, there's no need for us to do what we're doing today. So really, if anything, I believe in competing with ideas so that we move Malaysia up, not the lesser of evils. Today is like, okay lah, the other side is worse, that's why give your vote to us. That's a competition to the bottom, not to the top.
Maybe I totally understand MUDA is not going to get the state
government,
government or for sure federal government, no. But if you want to be my ADUN, my requirement for the ADUN is not only checking the longkang, I would like to know if I choose a MUDA candidate to become my ADUN, what is your stand or MUDA stand for some of the controversial topic?
Sure.
I would like to know what is MUDA stand on LGBT rights.
Sure. Okay. Obviously, when it comes to MUDA and PSM, we need to have a coalition or a agreement on issues like this. Personally, this is my stance. And I have been saying this since I was in Bersatu, mind you. Malay Muslim party then. And I've been consistent on this. I remember then there was a case in which transgender was selling nasi lemak. It went viral, and then there were attempts to persecute, to discriminate, just for the act of selling a nasi lemak to earn an income. Why did I oppose that, and why do I believe in a more humanitarian approach than one in which suppresses? Because the more you discriminate, the more you cast them out, the more you push them to the corner of desperation, it leads to worse outcomes. One, that's not the humane response, regardless whether you are Muslim, Buddhist, regardless of religions. Humanity and a humane response is very important. Secondarily, we complain, for an example, when they are pushed to the corner and then moved to the sex trade or to different ills. But yet we're not opening up the rooms of opportunities. So my point is this, especially as a Muslim, I want to say it from the upfront, I'm not an expert when it comes to Islam and allow experts to decide on that. At the same time, I think the approach taken by the former Mufti of Wilayah and the former Minister of Religious Affairs, to be honest, which is instead of alienating, isolating, discriminating, is about reaching out, telling that religion is about this, at the same time using humanity and education.
And protect their basic human rights.
Basic human rights. Because again, in Malaysia, it's not about getting equal, marriage or etc. Even Singapore hasn't gone that far. But that's why I say it moves back. I remember then when I got a lot of brickbats, just talking basic access, whether it's about job protections, to not be beaten up. I mean, that's basic. Because in the end, it is a more humanitarian response, which I believe, again, when we look, even if even the former Mufti and the Minister of Religious Affairs, instead of discriminating, could approach, right, to understand, to address it better. I think on this matter, a humanitarian response is much better than one which is of coercion and discrimination.
Okay, so here's a breaking news. I don't know you get this news or not, but I just read from
breaking news.
Yes, it's a breaking news. Anwar is invite you go back to work together with him.
Anwar is replying to your
country.
Love letters now.
Yeah, Anwar is replying your love letter now. How?
When?
Exactly.
Just a few hours ago.
Huh?
Just few hours ago. You just reply you, then you in the middle of interview. Didn't read the message.
I think out of respect, I have to.
You have to reply lah.
No. I don't even know. I have to really look at it first. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm being pranked by you guys.
It's a really breaking news, right?
We basically ambush him. So
so
it's not.
What is in your mind now? You get a reply.
Now, one thing which I learned is to be very measured and composed, and bring it to my party's leadership, without compromising on ideals and principles. That is the utmost priority. Ideals and principles.
So there are actually still possibilities for you to work together, and then
I want the policy concessions.
Okay.
Because it is for the country, and that's my utmost priority.
Yeah. Anwar, you dengar tak?
Oh my god!
That's all he wants. Okay.
Okay. So let's jump into the state election campaign lah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So we have been talking a lot about rights and policies, and then all of the things that you actually talked about are I would say mostly it is actually attractive to the PH based target audience. So this is a very tactical and it is a very realistic question. So what you're saying right now is actually only approaching to all this be it currently they are still supporting Pakatan or they are ex-PH supporters. So so there are two questions on this matter. So other than that, do you see that you might actually attract supporters other than this? And also, how would you approach the other side of the aisle?
That's fair. That's why to me, it's very bizarre when friends in PH say I'm splitting PH votes, and friends in PN say that I'm splitting the Malay votes. I mean, you can't be doing both, right? I actually think the vast majority of Malaysians, regardless of race and religion, wants a clear vision for Malaysia, in which protects their children and grandchildren's interests and future-proof Malaysia. And that all ties back to good policy making. It ties back to the politics of building strong democratic institutions instead of relying on the benevolence of a few political elites, on the politics of personalities or hyper-partisanship. That's why to make Malaysia a developed country, building strong institutions should be put in the upfront, because institutions outlast political personalities, including myself. It outlasts parties like MUDA. And that should be the ultimate aim. And I think once we do that, comes good policies on education, reforms, public transportation, climate change, etc. And that magnetizes people on the left and on the right. Because in the end, ultimately, we are Malaysians. We love this country. Some may be socially conservative, some may be socially liberal. But in the end, if the basic fundamentals of Malaysia are covered, I think they will be happy. And we have to acknowledge, in a very diverse, multiracial, multi-religious, ideologically diverse Malaysia as well, there may be a lot of frictions, but we need to learn how to agree to disagree and to manage those differences, and instead seeing our diversity as a liability, treat it as an asset, and learn how to manage those differences to move Malaysia forward.
And how do you think you can actually manage the differences, or pulling people together, or maybe in a more general or greater way, using this state election to achieve national reconciliation? How do you see that?
Talk about policies, policies and more policies, and reforms of institutions and more institutions, because that ties everyone together. For an example, if PAS and PN then had not used draconian laws, whether it is hiding behind the veil of emergency laws, or utilizing Sedition Act and Akta Multimedia, then Akta Sakit Hati, today it will not be used on them. But I also remind my PH friends, now they feel comfortable using the same PN arguments by suppressing their political opponents. What makes you think in the future, when you are in opposition, they will not use it against you? MUDA saying, enough of those old politics, break that vicious cycle for good. Right?
The retaliation kind of way of doing things.
But the way you do that is not by saying, oh, there's a messiah who will come and change it. No. It's that
we have
leader,
tried that way, so
cannot.
It doesn't work.
Cannot.
20 years.
Because you can have...
Even a few years ago, Mahathir was seen as the messiah of
it's
things.
Fair. Exactly. That's a fair comment.
Yeah.
And that's where, to me, to break apart from that messiah complex is to look at building institutions, because institutions will ensure that even the most evil politicians must toe the line, and then the most
evil
benevolent
politician as in who?
Anyone. I mean, just imagine, just imagine one day, whoever is on your mind,
Yeah.
the worst version of a politician and a leader becomes prime minister. But when you have strong institutions and democratic norms, even with the worst politician, Malaysia will be on the right footing. But you can have the cleanest, best and most competent leader, but with a corrupt, regressive system, that cleanest politician must play the same old game to survive, must succumb, must abandon principles for power. So in the end, it's really not about the personality, but it's about the reformed institutions which move us forward.
How about Dobby? What do you think? I mean, managing differences in at least, I don't know whether you have Turun Padang already, but as of now, what do you think? How do you actually manage it? Yeah, in your,
Turun Padang in Seri Setia is very fun, because the thing is, it's really, you have... I also found this quite reasoning, because I know there's a lot of golf courses in Seri Setia, but there's 4 golf courses in Seri Setia. And there's a whole bunch of T20...
In one state.
Yeah. I'm starting to wonder, is it the most
he's
golf
contesting in the in the very rich atas punya area.
But then he has the most PPR flats as well.
Exactly. It's also the poorest.
You send a candidate like this to atas area.
But this candidate likes to be at the bawah area.
Because Mentari is also in your area.
Exactly.
So
That's better. That's your beating heart where you feel very passionate.
It's the McD where I go to makan. So it's like people like tell me, it's like, oh, that place, ooh, Dobby, that's a bit dodgy, you know. I'm like, dude, I grew up there. I know how dodgy. Oh, well, no, it's not how dodgy it is, but I know how comfortable that can be.
Let's just edit that.
Make it become a reels or shorts,
But the thing is, like, even though people say it's dodgy, right? I've been to places in KL where I would be looking over my shoulder every 5 minutes. There are places in Klang, I'll look at it every 30 seconds. But that place, even though it looks messy, it looks very mixed, you have a lot of migrant workers going around. I don't think I've ever seen a place where people say like, oh, you know, you have to be very careful here because you get snatch theft all the time. You have to be very careful here because people got robbed the other day. It's not a place that you hear that every day. And it's one of those things, it's a very small, tight-knitted area that you hear it a lot.
That's interesting.
So how do we find the meeting point between these two people? I think Seri Seti itself is a good experiment.
You know,
right?
like B1 and T20.
Yeah.
Do you really think they can? There's a common
I think so,
point.
because end of the day, everyone wants the same thing, right? We want a good life for ourselves, and a lot of people who want children or have children will be thinking, I also want a good life for my children. There's of course going to be an outlier that doesn't want both, but hopefully the outlier is a small percentage and not the majority. And I think the majority, if they want the best thing for their kids, it's just a matter of what do we think is the way to get there, right? Some people might think being more pious, having our state laws reflect religious belief and fundamental beliefs that way. And I'm not talking about Islam per se. Even you have Christian conservatives that are the same exact thing. You have any religion have the same exact thing, right? Some of them thinks that being faithful is the way to a better tomorrow. Fine. But there are other people that also believe that having a good education, like this guy over here, is the way to that end. For me, it's community empowerment. All of us have slightly different view of how to get to a better Malaysia. And I don't think we've seen anyone so far that says, my goal is to make Malaysia worse. Is there? No, right?
I hope not.
I'm not sure. You know, DPM nowadays, I don't know.
Okay. But let's assume that people want to have a better Malaysia. Then I think the fine line is negotiating. How do you get there? What's the way forward there? Even it's like when I work at Suara, when I work at APM, when we talk to police, right? Like, best people I always want to talk to is SB, especially when we have like a controversial case, because to me they are the sounding board. Like I talked to one of them about drug trafficking and why this person shouldn't hang. They'll be like, oh, you know, but there's also that, you know, this big time guy, we got him 3 times, he got off all 3 times, and then you know he's still making drugs and selling drugs. But that's kind of discussed. Like if you talk about it at the end of the day, what he wants: end of drug trafficking, end of drug abuse. What do I want? The same exact thing.
Correct.
It's only the view is he thinks, okay, the death penalty is a good way to scare him, to scare those offenders away. For me, I say that's not useful. There's a better way to go about it. But end of the day, right, we want the same thing. It's just how do we negotiate the process. If you can negotiate the process well, great. If you can negotiate the process well and solve it in the first go, great. But clearly that doesn't happen all the time. But the thing is, we have tried option 1, 2, 3, and we're still banging on option 1, 2, 3. Now I think what MUDA wants to do is, here's option 4, 5, 6. Can we try? Right? We try all the things that didn't work. Let's find the things that work.
But I think you both know, like, state election and federal election is like totally quite different. When people choose their ADUN, they actually like refer to their grassroots service, which is, I mean, MUDA is very lack of this compared to MCA and DAP lah. So, what do you think this is a burden for you?
Or a stress way of?
I actually think that MUDA's core value is a politics of service. I mean, mind you, even without our party being registered, we raise millions via crowdfunding for flood relief, for poverty eradication. I mean, this was not state's money, federal's money. We did it on our own, our volunteers on the ground working every single day to service, without even us being a formal party then. Even today, so much so, we are in the area of service that people say it's better for us to be a welfare NGO than to be a political party because of our track record of service. Oh, a lot, trust me. A lot, including friends in high positions. I do admit we don't have the patronage power structure with the millions or billions of resources. We don't have the 30-40 million for JCOM, for propaganda. I mean, we don't have all of that, right? However, even with the limited resources we have, we're already in the area of service. Imagine with the resources what we could do. So even if you look at DAP, maybe in the early 1970s, 1980s, they didn't have all of that, but you need to start somewhere. And that's where MUDA's journey of investing in Malaysia is a long-term goal. And we know that changing the structures of Malaysia will take time. But if you give us a chance now and invest in Malaysia's future through us, rest assured we will get there together.
So I think Selangor and Penang is actually a good experiment, because an ADUN's job is not to deal with your longkang, to deal with your road and deal with those things. Those are local councillors' job, right? But the problem is why ADUN always end up with that job is because they are the forward-facing person. They are the person you elected. So you think, oh, it's state issue, this is state issue, so he should be fixing it for me, or she should be fixing it for me. And I think for us to break that cycle, of course, you want to elect a local council, but government is not going to do that now. But if you think about it a different way, right? Selangor and Penang and maybe some part of Perak, I think they have done well enough that this issue isn't something that ADUN has to focus all the time anymore. Like if you look at PJ, like Kampung Tungku is actually a very good example. Pothole comes out there. How long does it take to get fixed? A day, 2 days? Like it's a non-issue anymore because the local councillor are working even though they're not elected. So isn't that the best place for you to be able to say, okay, if my system is working as designed, my ADUN can be a policy maker. Should I not vote for them based on policy as opposed to service on the grassroots side? There's always going to be that element of grassroots service because you are a centralized figure in the area. But I think it's the best place for you to start and say, yeah, maybe I want this guy to talk policy. I don't want him to just look at Longkang anymore.
Yeah, correct.
Because paying 13,000 for that person to look at Longkang is actually quite...
Yeah, I also can look, ma.
Yeah, that's right.
Just pay for me.
So
then
do you
go
want to
look.
join MUDA and be their candidate?
It's okay lah.
See, I'm helping you to...
Thank you. Very good recruiter.
Okay.
Straight to the point.
So what's your question?
Yeah, so I mean we have talked about resources as well just now. So this is one of the things that I actually am very curious about is you when you say that without resources you are doing a lot of things. So when given resources you might or you can actually do a lot more.
Yeah.
So what if this is a what if questions. So what if if you manage to get 1 or 2 seats and then manage to be the kingmaker of Selangor state government, so and then would you accept exco seats or seats in the cabinet of the state government, and then in exchange for endorsing either way PN or PH whether do you think
I mean PN or PH clearly for us is the multiracial moderate coalition to be upfront. Obviously I'll put it through MUDA's leadership, but my view on multiracialism, diversity and reforms are very clear on it. Secondarily, whether we'll be in government or out, I think to be honest, our message is very clear. We want to be the check and balance and the voice of conscience. It's not to take down any government. But let's say a sudden crisis arise where we win 1 or 2 and that 1 or 2 will determine whether the government will be formed. There are many formulations, whether it's about joining or through a CSA, confidence and supply, through extractions of reforms, and committing that it will be a stable government, because I think MUDA leaders are not here to take down any government, are really looking at getting those political reforms in. So there are many ways in which we want to do it. But what is clear is we do not want to abandon our principles for seats and powers. I mean, and this I speak personally, in the end, MUDA is a highly democratic party. We go through all these discussions and debates, shouting sessions before a decision is made. But if it's just about power, I mean, I could have just supported the Sheraton move, maintain my role as a minister and be comfortable. But it's not about that. I think Malaysia today, especially among the young, the youth, we should take more risk, dare to disrupt and invest in the future. And I hope that MUDA will take that route.
So actually, maybe I'm kind of vague just now, but yeah, because if you are an exco, let's say exco of health, okay, then you might have a lot of resources in terms of money, and then you have like the whole machinery to do things for you in the government. So yeah, you can actually do a lot more in helping
fair.
The Selangorians' health. So do you really think that you would just walk away from that resources, or
that's why it's
Dobby has a very
that's why it's a very specific situation which depends, right? I mean, let's say suddenly it is a very divisive, toxic coalition-led government. I mean, you're given a seat, let's say whether it's a minister or an exco, but will your voice be heard? Will the reforms be done? Because it's always about the team, not about you being offered one seat, whether it is a minister or an exco. So to me, my stance on this matter is whoever can offer the most reforms, not who can offer the most lucrative GLC positions. Reforms will be the ultimate priority.
Okay, so don't go to that far first, because not even can become ADUN. They want to talk about EXCO. That's a bit too far away. Okay, so let's talk about how Parti MUDA they choose candidate and how you choose the state you go.
Yeah,
because
why Dobby?
because like there's some state There's a joke. There's a joke like there is some state if you put a lembu pakai baju DAP, they also can win one. Like Panda Utama lah, Balakong lah, like all this seat. Like MUDA dare to go to all this seat or not? Or how MUDA actually choose the seat?
Yes, I mean to be very frank, as I said from the start, the seat belongs to the people, and no party or coalition should treat that seat as a safe deposit. Theirs, feeling a sense of entitlement, and despite bad service, bad policy making, bad principles, never mind, it's their seat that's not disturbed and will forever be their seat. That's not how Malaysian democracy should be like. If anything, there should be better contestation of ideas and better choices, so that in the end, no one feels too comfortable and will take your vote lightly. So that's where MUDA enters. But I want to answer your question in specific. Where and what's our strategy? From the beginning and from the outset, we are very realistic. That's why we're not seeing with the contest in 240 seats. Right? Out of 240, 15, maximum 20, less than 10% of seats. Then comes the question, where do we contest? MUDA needs to start in building a truly multiracial, multi-religious, moderate, reform-centered political base. So then, obviously, we will pick this kind of seats, right? Selangor is very important. It's the economic engine. And I believe if we do things well, our voice will be heard. That can be a national expansion plan. Then people, why don't you go to all seats in Kelantan, Terengganu, Kedah? I mean, if we have the resources, we'd love to. But we have to be very pragmatic, right? I mean, on the one hand, you don't want to work with us. On the other hand, you want to decide our strategy and ask us to only contest in seats with you yourself. I mean, why don't you ask them to them? Why don't you put your national leaders there? Why don't you put the strongest candidates there? Even they don't do that, right? So the fact of the matter is, I think MUDA needs to start small, be that voice of conscience, prove ourselves, build a track record, and then expand for the next 20 years. It is an investment for Malaysia's future.
I totally agree with you because I'm a very idealistic people. But you know, like I have a friend that always remind me any strategy needs money. Yeah.
No, right. So that's why I have to be realistic, right? I mean,
the realistic is like you need money.
Yeah.
But MUDA, what is MUDA strategy?
I mean, nobody knows how cash-strapped we are, and how we all have a role to fundraise. I mean, to be honest, our strength really lies in crowdfunding. Since before MUDA was formed, when MUDA was waiting for registration to after we were formed, I mean, we raised millions and we opened our books. I remember then people said, this few millions given by tycoon. We showed that more than 50,000 people donated in 2 weeks time span, right? We shared the metadata. And the average donor then was about 30, 50 ringgit. And now we are doing the same. I mean, almost every day, we are having our crowdfunding exercise, whether it's through the selling of nasi lemak, otak-otak, bihun, selling of their motorbikes, personal equipments. We're mobilizing every single MUDA member to sacrifice a little and then to contribute. Is that enough? Of course not. But you start somewhere. Can we spend lavishly? Exactly. Of course not. We can't do all these lavish campaigns. You don't see us doing this big charamas with good lighting system. Everyone, all the celebrations. No, none. What are we doing? Online. Podcast with friends, trying to reach out in unique ways, digital campaigning. So, but ground campaign method. Yeah. If we have money, but we don't. We have to be realistic. Run a lean and mean and efficient political campaign which really focuses on issues. Instead, the old way of campaigning, giving money, getting voted out by giving money, we can't do that. And even if we wanted to, we didn't have the money. And we should not be doing that. So this is a little bit of the new politics which we want to bring. And that's why moving forward, it's not just about doing that. We want to get political funding reforms. And that means a political funding at the state level. As long as you get about 5% of support, the state would actually fund. But as a consequence, you can no longer be reliant on big political contributions and donations, which in the end allow you to sell your soul. Because the big donors will buy all parties. They'll go to all parties. Opposition, I'll give you maybe 500,000. Government, I'll give you 10 million. But whoever wins, they're the biggest winners. Malaysia doesn't progress. We need to break that cycle. MUDA supports a political funding act at the state level. We want to ensure that the people come first, not the elites.
So, talking about the political funding reform, so we have interviewed YB Tian Chua. So, if you want to know more about that, just listen or watch to our next podcast. So, I have the last question for you, and a super harsh question. When we're talking about Parti MUDA, actually, that people will say like, "Oh, Parti Sesade, is it?" Right? So, but you're still in a court case. If you go to the jail, do you think Parti MUDA can survive?
Oh, definitely. Because Parti MUDA is so much more than Syed Saddiq. I want to address 2 quick points. Number one, about it being bigger than Syed Saddiq. The reason why there's so much attention on Syed Saddiq is because MUDA was never given a chance to showcase the other leaders. I mean, to be very frank, right? In Johor, we got, almost all our seats were Felda, rural, tough seats. In GE, right? We contested in the rural heartlands. We contested in the super Malay majority seats, which Pakatan Harapan knew they would lose. When even 2018 happened, when the wave happened, PH lost really badly. So at that point, we thought, we'll take one for the team. We have to win as a team. This time around, I think, let us train our leaders. Let them contest where they want to contest, right? So in the end, we can build our strength and invest 10 years down the road. So to make that, we need to give opportunities for people like Dobi to be the voice of Selangorians in Dewan Undangan Negeri and many others. We are fielding almost 50% of women. We try our best, right? We aim high 50%, even fall short 40, 45%. Other parties, heck, it's not even 30%. It's like 11, 15%, right? So we want to bring this new politics, new politics in. So to move away from Syed Saddiq, give them a chance. I'm not contesting in this election. Dobi is. Vote for Dobi since he's here. Okay, secondarily. What about my court case?
So now have drama, is it?
Online drama.
What about my court case? I don't want to run away from it, right? I want to be very frank and honest and sincere about it. From the very beginning, I've been very clear in saying that what has happened is political persecution. But I don't want to just say it's political persecution and then secretly trying to sign the backdoor deal by getting my court case dropped. What I can say effectively until today, despite the fact I was offered to become a minister, to become a chairman of a GLC, I rejected. And when the offers were rejected, come the threats, not just against me, but my family members. If I was so scared that I did something wrong, I stole public's money contract, I would have jumped and I'll be safe. Not just safe, I'll most likely be richer with better position. But I didn't. I always believe in the line, berani kerana benar. When I went through court today, I've never once postponed my case. It started August last year. It finished in April. I'm just waiting for the decision.
This sounds personal for Najib.
I didn't postpone.
Oh my God.
I didn't postpone. Not just that. When I'm in government, I never once asked for my case to be dropped. I didn't send a legal representation to get my case dropped. Because I believe in the judiciary. And let's say, suddenly something bad happens, still happens. I'm not someone to ask for help for my case to be dropped. But then I want to go through that process. Because in order for me to be a leader who believes in institutions, I need to put faith in that institution. And if there's any problem, reform it. Because it's not about Syed Saddiq, but it's about everyone else who will go through those institutions. And I think that's the best way forward. So, will MUDA survive? Yes. Because we believe in building institutions. We have so many more better leaders than Syed Saddiq. They're just not given a chance. I've worked with them. Dobi has been in the civil society landscape much earlier than I have. I'm privileged to be given a chance.
Because he's older than you, ma.
You know, like 23? Hey, about same lah. But once they are given a chance, I can tell you they are so much better than me.
Yeah. So what about you, Dobi? How do you think? The practical way of not having Syed Saddiq as the face or the soul. At least from the outside view.
For soul, that's so disgusting. Walao.
Of MUDA. Moving forward, if he's really in prison now, then what do you think MUDA would do in order to be still relevant to the public?
A light-hearted mode. Our leading party, who is the Prime Minister's party right now, the party grew when he was inside. So I have faith that anything happens.
So you have to go in lah.
Masuk je.
So it's effectively throwing me at the best, take one for the team.
Only thing I promise is we
this
know
is
better
another
now.
strategy also, ma.
I've now waited 20 years. If you go in, we'll try make it 10 years now. But
Make it 3 lah. Make it 3.
Yeah, 3 lah, can lah.
Within one term of the...
Pasar malam is it? Yeah.
See, everyone agree on the conditions, so we just need to talk about price now.
Yeah.
But on a more serious note, I think...
Have you foreseen this? Your partner, like throw you under the bus.
Oh, I can tell you, MUDA is a very noisy but great democratic party. President, I cannot like strong arm a decision in. It's really democratic.
Yeah, we can tell now because they're throwing you under the bus.
No, not throwing you under the bus. Making best use of him being
resources.
under the bus.
While being under the bus.
But on a more serious note, I think if the case go badly in whichever way, and most of these things are public nowadays, right? Everyone can reach a judgment, can understand a judgment. And if the general prevailing sentiment is that this judgment is not right, like it was very clear with Anwar's case before, both the first and second time. I think the public will be angry. And for us, for MUDA, then I think that's the time where we show that this anger, this kind of frustration with the system is exactly why we stood for, why we fight, why me, a human rights activist, and many people ask me why am I contesting under MUDA. This is exactly why I would be contesting under MUDA, because I wouldn't trust any party to do the same fight anymore, right? We used to trust PKR, DAP, Amana to take this kind of challenge to the front. They have 2 chances now, one in 2018 and now in 2022. What have they done with the chances? Barely anything. So to me, if this do happen, we'll try and visit you as much as we can. And we'll work around plans to, you know.
So what would be the frequency of visiting him? Every day?
By right, he's supposed to get a friend visit once a month, a friend or relative, but you know,
not really a close friend, once a month only.
It's okay, you know, I work a lot of inmates inside. I know I'm sure someone can send you a message.
Take care of him.
Yeah. And I also know the privilege if you're going for long term. But anyway, the point is, you know, I think people will be angry, people will be frustrated. And what we need to do then is to give people the chance, the hope to say that this is bad, we disagree with this, and we can fight it. And I think then it falls on the MUDA's leadership, which there is a big leadership, to say we can lead this fight and we must do this fight, because this is no longer just saying, you know, Malaysia has improved, we won't worry about it. What we worry has happened again, and we need to push it back. Because this kind of thing, the moment we stop fighting, it disappears. We've seen it in every country around the world, right? When democracy is taken for granted, they take a step back, they stop fighting for what matters in democracy, it just regresses almost immediately. Philippines has Duterte. Taiwan better now, but has a bigger problem next to its neighbor. US, you see the kind of motherland of democracy, or some of them will say it's having a regression. Europe, France, everywhere you can see this kind of regression. And for us, I think we didn't have the chance to flourish as a proper democracy. We had some development these years, and I think that little ground that we gained must be fought for and maintained, because any step we take back now is going to send us in a very, very bad direction very, very quickly. And it's something that, even though I'm young, if we go down that way, I don't know how long it will take for us to be able to fight back again, to have that chance to say we are a democratic nation again. So I think it's important that if he goes under the bus,
then he goes under the bus.
He goes under the bus. And we'll make it count.
Zoom in his face, you know. Yeah, okay. I think we have asked a lot of...
I have faith in the judiciary. I just want to say that, because as I shared, I cannot be fighting for reforms of institutions, but yet
do not trust
believe.
the system.
And again, if there's any mistake, an error in judgment, I need to respect the judge. I cannot do like what a particular leader did by trying to throw aspersions, attack, very personal. I'm not going to do that. To be honest, if there's any error in judgment, there is an appeal, you bring your case forward. That's why the judiciary, with its imperfections, have its own internal checks and balances. But in the end, the dream for Malaysia is that whether it's Syed Saddiq or another random guy who enters court, the treatment would be the same, because in the end, that's the beginning of a developed Malaysia.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair and very good answer, especially, you know, trusting the system. This is, I mean, for Malaysian, this is actually something very hard. You know, at least for me, I don't trust the system at all in the current political situation. But that would be another story that we can actually discuss further another day. Yeah, I think that's about it. And then...
That's all for today.
Yeah, that's all for today. And, you know, like, really thank you both for, you know, joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
I hope you're going to come here as soon as possible with ADUN seat.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you
bye.
Thank you very much, guys.
Bye.
Thank you very much.